Hello, my lovelies. How you doing? So this is a forecast for Friday, the 24th of July, 2026. And I have to say it's quite hot here in Portugal right now. I am absolutely sweltering. My makeup is like starting to melt. But aside from that, all's well. And I hope you're well wherever you are. Now, if we think about Thursday brought in that strong sun square Chiron, which can feel a bit hurty, a bit ouchy. And then Mercury direct, I think, was that collective sigh of relief. Whew, thank goodness it stopped. I think we've looked at our navels and our psychology enough now. And so Friday, the 24th, I think, is our recognition of that. It's a real kind of hooray day, out of the whole week. I would say Friday is the one that gives us some beautiful relief. Now, why is that? I would say it's because we've got all these amazing, easy aspects with the moon, and also this gorgeous Mercury sextile Venus aspect. Now, I say all of these easy ones. There's a couple of slightly challenging ones. However, moon movements, they move. Like the moon is always moving very fast. It moves, I think, 13 degrees every day. So we'll get through these slightly more challenging ones whilst also enjoying the Mercury sextile Venus, which I'll talk about in a minute. But it's mostly ease. It's mostly joy. And I'm going to use the word glory as well. That reminds me of access consciousness that I first learned about probably 16, 17 years ago. And then I met this amazing friend called Sarah, who studied access consciousness. And, a lot of our conversations have been about ease and joy and glory and how we can tap into that so much more. So anyway, I think this day is about ease, joy, and glory. And thank you to Access Consciousness for stringing those three together. Like, how can we experience more ease, joy, and glory in the world on Friday the 24th? So let's look through this. So the first thing that's really coming up is the moon's going into the Sagittarius. So it's been in Scorpio for 2.5 days. Now it's heading into Sagittarius, and the theme is going to shift. The moon is coming out of, and I'm going to liken this a little bit to the 8th house and the 9th house. I know the signs of the zodiac aren't the same as the houses. But if we're thinking of Scorpio, to me, it reminds us of being in a cave, being somewhere where you are safe and secure, and maybe where you're protected, where you're wanting to keep things hidden a little bit. And like when we come into the sign of Sagittarius, we're seeing vistas ahead of us. We're seeing open space. We want a view, and we want it to be exciting, and we want the windows wide open. We want the fresh air coming in, and we want to feel that sense of, like dogs when they've got their head out the window and they're like, and they're just like so happy, like their little tongues flapping away in the wind. That's the kind of energy that we want to go into. It's that like crazy happy dog journey energy, or riding off on a horse, like the horsey energy that Sagittarius offers. Last night, I was running a course on the 10th house inside my community, and one of our members, she put in a horse emoji, and I couldn't understand why she was putting it in. And in the end, she was talking about like Sagittarius energy. It is horse energy. It's that beautiful centaur energy, the archer Sagittarius. If we feel, I say we because I am a Sagittarius, if a Sagittarius feels trapped, the horsey side of us wants to leg it. It wants to go off into that whatever direction feels most free, most exciting, most invigorating, and also what feels true to us. So that's the tempo change, and it's happening at just the right time, because Friday into Saturday, Sunday, this is our weekend energy. We're coming into this time of feeling fresh and free. So that's beautiful right off the bat. And I'll talk about Mercury sextile Venus in a sec, but once the moon goes into Sagittarius, it's going to make, in quick succession, it's going to make a trine to the sun. So that's nice. To me, that's suggesting that everything that came in for you at the time of the new moon, which wasn't that long ago, well, actually, it probably is now. It's can't remember the date it happened now off the top of my head, but we're almost coming into the full moon next week. So probably 7 to 9 days ago, maybe 10 days ago, when we had the new moon in Cancer. Now we are, a third of our way through the next moon cycle. We're still in a waxing moon phase. And so we're still in this sort of galloping forwards phase where things are starting to grow a bit faster. Remember yesterday or the day before, we were just in that first quarter stage. So things are happening much faster. It feels like there's a gathering pace, which I think is super exciting. I love that. And so, there's a feeling of freedom around that. We've also got the moon going into a square with the North Node. And that's going to be happening at the same time. So it's interesting. We've got this sense of freedom and a sense that we're growing something in quite an exciting way. But we're also feeling maybe that it's slightly out of control with this square to the North Node. Maybe we're feeling like, oh, it's moving too fast. Oh my God, maybe it can't be this good. Like, when's the shoe going to drop? When's it going to mess up? Please don't listen to those little arguments you're selling yourself, because with the sun and the moon in a lovely trine, it's really encouraging. It's saying that there is movement. We are in this process of movement. The moon in Sagittarius wants to move, and it wants to move in the right way. And yes, it might be in a square to the North Node, but the North Node's about to change signs. The North Node, which is about our direction we're going in, is about to shift. And so maybe it's shifting because we're growing. I mean, that's a cool thought, right? Maybe it's slightly edgy because you're about to drop something that hasn't put you in freedom. So for instance, I think we can only grow as much as we're comfortable to allow it in. And when we go just a little bit out of our comfort zone, all of a sudden the ego, the unconscious mind and all its programs will slam the door shut, and you'll feel this sense of tension, and you'll feel this sense of, oh God, I can't do it. It feels scary, or it feels dangerous, and you won't push yourself there. I think this is just, if you get these kinds of feelings, take it as a little warning, but sit with it and ask yourself, is this true? Is this really true? Is this likely? Is this just my old fears playing out one more time in another way? Because by next week, the North Node is going to be changing its picture, and it's coming out of Pisces, which is maybe a bit confusing, like the sign of Pisces. If you are a Pisces, I've got my moon in Pisces and my Jupiter in Pisces. I'm quite a Piscean person, actually. If you're comfortable with the Pisces energy, you'll be fine when it gets a little bit confusing, a lot more than other people. Some people really suffer with that because they like things to be very clear. But when the North Node comes into Aquarius, things are going to get exciting and open up and expand very quickly. But they'll be expanding within visible systems that you can see. So you might be just on the tipping point of some new change coming in, and it's feeling exciting. Now, the moon is going to go into a trine with Neptune soon after. So it's quite funny. I was just talking about Pisces because Neptune is one of the rulers, a modern day ruler of Pisces. So the moon coming into a trine with Neptune, both in fire signs, is really exciting because the moon in Sagittarius, it wants to go on an adventure, and it wants to do it in the way that feels fulfilling and true, really true and open-minded and hopeful to itself. And then Neptune in Aries has got lots of ideals and lots of ideals about union and coming together and working together, and what it might take to dream in something that's truly magical. So these are working beautifully. Then we've got the sextile to Pluto from the moon in Sagittarius to Pluto in the early degrees of Aquarius. And this, I think, is showing us that, we might need to put some hard work in, but it's going to transform us. And is it time to surrender to our new idea? Are we surrendering to a new version of ourselves? How does that feel? And then just like that, the moon is also in an opposition to Uranus. And that, again, can feel a little bit dangerous, a little bit daring. And yet I think the moon, when it's in its angles or its aspects to Uranus, it's always encouraging us to not make plans too tightly, because anything could happen. And sure, we might sort of blow up a little bit. We might suddenly snap, or suddenly go, oh my God, that's too much, and go into sudden overwhelm. And yet this opposition to Uranus could bring in a sense of fun and a sense of adventure. Pluto's also in Uranus's sign. So we've got the opposition to Uranus, but we've also got this sextile to Pluto with a Uranian kind of feel to it. And then finally, we've also got this sextile to Jupiter. So actually, it's not a sextile, it's a trine to Jupiter. So there's a feeling of well-being with it. So all in all, we've got the trine to the Sun, the trine to Jupiter, bringing in a beautiful sense of well-being and goodness, and a feeling like, right, we're on a mission. We've got the trine to Neptune, which is encouraging you to dream big and to expect something kind of magical and just unusually serene or mystical or spiritual to occur. The sextile to Pluto saying, we can do this. You might need to surrender, and there might be some hard work, but you've got this. And then this slightly jarring opposition to Uranus, and at the same time a square to the North Node. So as you can see, we'll have the moon in a T-square to the North Node and Uranus. So there is this feeling of change and our direction and our emotions all working together. So yeah, I think this is quite sweet. I think this is quite exciting. And like I said, not a day to plan, a day to allow it to kind of fall into place. And I think I can think of no better way of doing that than asking yourself, what's the next best thing I can do? What's the next best thing that's going to make me feel excited or make me feel happy? Or where is the least resistance right now? And go and do that. Because we're really talking about a really strong flow state. Remember, we've got Pluto, Neptune, Uranus, and Jupiter. I was going to say all of them in 4 degrees, but Jupiter's just snuck into 5 degrees, but they're all working really tightly together. The sun's also coming into this. So there's a lot of, it's almost like leaning against an open door. There's not much resistance at all. So I think it's time to go for it. Now, let's add in Mercury sextile Venus. So Mercury and Venus, as you probably already know if you like astrology, Mercury and Venus only ever do 2 different aspects with each other. They're either in a conjunction, and that's the most common one where they come together, or they're in a sextile. They will never be in a square to each other, because they will only ever be a certain distance from the sun. So Mercury is only ever as far away as 28 degrees from the sun. Venus is only ever as far away as 48 degrees from the sun. And so, the 2 of these planets, Mercury and Venus, will only be something like 75 to 76 degrees away from each other. So the sextile is possible. It doesn't happen that often, but it's definitely not rare. It might happen a couple of times a year. A lot of it depends on whether Venus is going retrograde as well as Mercury. In fact, this year, both of them are going to be retrograde at the same time in October and in November, FYI. If they're important planets to you, it's worth keeping an eye on those. But in the sextile, you've got mind and values coming together. So here's the mind, that's Mercury, going direct now in the sign of Cancer. I think he's building stories about like your personal story, your emotional story. And it's a story that has new richness, because he's just come out of this retrograde where I'm pretty sure you learned a lot about yourself, and maybe you learned a lot about the people closest to you. And then you got Venus, a planet who is to do with well-being, definitely to do with our love and our feelings of connection. But I always think of Venus as a planet that really shows you what we value. Where are our values right now? And right now she's valuing everything that's natural, everything that's easy. I'm sure she's also valuing what comes freely, because, when I think about Virgo, I see as being about perfection, but also about the natural order of things. And the natural world should come for free. Like, we're all members of the natural world. And interestingly, it's only us and our domesticated animals that have to pay our way. Every other animal gets to live in nature for free pretty much until we come and kind of F it up for them. And maybe we might be protecting them, but and I'm not an expert on all of these things, but from my own observations, I think when we leave nature to get on and do its own thing, it kind of does it quite well. There's a natural rhythm. And so Venus in Virgo is naturally appreciating the goodness, the bounty in life. And so you've got this natural bounty in life and feelings of quiet, calm and peace, natural connection. And you've got this rich new story about yourself and the people that you love. And so these are coming together. So I just think Friday, great day, really, really great day. Just to recap, I don't want it to go on too long for you, but the moon, the sun, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune and Pluto, all of these are in air or fire signs. They're all positive signs. They're all masculine signs. They're kind of doing signs. They're very inspirational and full of ideas. And then the Mercury and Venus sextile, they're sort of grounded, in the earth and also in the water. So it's our values to ourself and nature and our stories that are keeping us really, really grounded, because the rest of the energies on the day, they're also conceptual and they're taking us off into the future, into new directions. So I think Friday is a magnificent day, a great day for sensing what's coming, appreciating what's working. And I think it's a great day to start off the weekend with. So wishing you lots and lots of love. And, if you like these and you want to connect, or if I have my community on School, which you can access for free, where lots of us, we are discussing these every day. We share our little stories. It's interesting when you notice that there are other people sharing similar stories to you and having similar breakthroughs at the same time. So if you're interested in joining us and kind of celebrating the patterns of astrology and noticing how we're all going through stuff at the same time, then please do join. It's www.school.com/feelgoodastrology. And also, if you wanted to get a consultation with me, there's also 5% discount to every member. So if you're thinking about it, it's almost daft paying full price when you can get a 5% discount. So I'll leave that there with you. Have a brilliant rest of day and catch up with you all soon. Bye for now.